There we go. There we go. All right. Here we go. Welcome, everyone. My name is Trapper Goldsmith, host of the T-Rap Show, where we showcase elite athletes and sport individuals with their inspiring stories and rise to glory in their pursuit of everlasting greatness. Today, we have a true legend of the NHL joining us, none other than Chris Dingman, a two-time Stanley Cup winner with an impressive 12-year career in the NHL. Dinger's physicality helped him log 120 fights in the league, and his ability to contribute both on and off the ice have made him a household name in the hockey world. It's an honor to have him as a guest today. We'll dive deep into his career, from his unforgettable moments on the championship stage to the intense rivalries he faced throughout his NHL journey. We'll also explore his insights on the importance of physicality in the game, the unspoken rules that define hockey culture, and the valuable lessons he learned from his remarkable teams he played for. And his story doesn't end with his playing days. Since retiring, he transitioned into a successful broadcasting analyst career. He's moved into sales, leveraging his experiences on the ice to offer a unique perspective and expert analysis, I think. And we'll hear about challenges he faced during his transition and how his playing background continues to shape his career moving forward. So get ready for an action-packed episode as we uncover exclusive stories, valuable advice, and thought-provoking discussions that you can come to expect on the T-Rap Show. So without further ado, let's blow the whistle, drop the puck. It's game time. Chris, welcome, man.
Oh, thanks for having me. Kind of freaked me out when you use the word elite. So I've never been, it's been about 30 years, I think, since I've been called elite. So thank you for that.
12 years in the NHL. I think you earned the right to be called elite. So you had a pretty stellar WHL career, both on the physical side and offensively. I read you had 40 goals, 83 points in the 94 season. You wore the C for the 95 season when you guys won the cup with the Wheat Kings. When you got drafted, was the physical role something that was required, or did you just feel like it came more natural for you? What were your first few years in the NHL like after the dub?
Well, playing physical was always like part of my game, and I like to hit people. And I learned early on when I was about 15, when you hit people and you ran them over, sometimes they wanted to fight. So my dad had got me in to see a guy, Daryl Duke, who trained with the Oilers, or actually trained a lot of the Oilers back in the day, and he was an ex-boxer. So I took some boxing lessons, and he just wanted me to be prepared that if I had to fight, I'd be able to I guess handle myself. So. And then, when you're playing junior, especially as a young guy, and I was big, I was like 6'3", I think my first year, like 224 or something like that. And, people want to fight you, they want to test you. So I did pretty good in my first fight, and then, kind of just kept fighting, and then realized it was a part of the game. And, it was a way to get, I guess, to get more space, and be the best way to put it, for myself and even for my line mates. And, it's really helpful, or was helpful, and it's helping my team out, I guess. Anytime someone was playing a little too rough with guys, and most people say they're willing to do what it takes to win, or whatever it takes, and
Yes.
A lot of people aren't. And I think we see that in the NHL, like teams that win and don't win. And not to pick on the Leafs, but they've had a tough go because they made it to the second round, and then all these questions: what are you going to do? And you're going to blow up the core, you're going to keep them together. And, I remember in the first round, just against Tampa, and, Tampa's just played too much hockey last couple of years, but like Steven Stamkos is a guy that, I remember I was doing broadcasting, and as a rookie, they were in the playoffs, and it was game 7 against Boston, and Tampa had an unreal power play at the time, and they didn't call a single penalty the entire game in game 7. And Stammer took a puck to the nose and clearly broke his nose. And literally, he was back out with a cage on, with a full cage, and he caught and stuffed up his nose, and 2 black eyes that were already starting to form. And I was like, I think it was right by the bench there, and I could hear guys like Marty saying the waves, like friggin' rights. I knew he was coming back, and just the, just like the emotional lift, I guess, of your teammate battling through something where not everyone can do that. And I did in junior, my last regular season game. Wade Redden took a shot. It wasn't his fault. It got tipped, hit me in the nose, and clearly, like the goalie behind me, Roddy Branch, was like, "Dinger, take a knee." I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Dinger, take a knee." He's like, "Look down." I'm like, "Why?" And he's like, "Look down." I look down. My nose is just pouring blood. And I went in, got my nose snapped back into place, 2 pieces of, cotton stuffed up there, and a couple stitches. And, I came back out and, I remember teammates saying, "I told you he was coming back." And I was like, it makes you feel good. So just willing to do whatever it takes. And, I think you saw in the first round where, like online people are like, "Oh, Stamkos is jumping a 60 goal scorer in Austin Matthews." And, he wasn't jumping him, but he was telling him he was going to fight him. And like Steven Stamkos scored 60 goals. He's not
Yeah.
scoring 60 anymore. He's an older guy. Here's a guy that's broken his leg. And, he came back and the guys were chirping him in the playoffs a couple of years ago in the bubble where he only played that one shift, and like I think he was in the finals and he scored a goal. But he literally, like, I'm still friends with the trainers and stuff and a few of the guys in Tampa. And like he knew he shouldn't have played, but he wanted to play. And he
Right.
knew he could maybe play only a couple shifts. And well, I'll tell you what, that shift was unreal because he basically tore his groin off the bone and, scored a huge goal and it really uplifted his team. So I think, just things like that. So there's the fighting aspect of it, but the battling, willing to do whatever it takes. And, there's a lot of guys that are willing to do that. And then there's guys that you got to learn how to do that. And I think, and using Toronto, for example, and Tampa is that, Tampa got embarrassed against Columbus. That was when Seth Jones was still there. They had Bobrovsky and, Tampa had a good team and they thought they were, they knew what it took to win and they didn't, because they'd already gone to the finals in 2015 and lost against the Blackhawks. But that's when they knew Vasilevsky was their goalie because, Ben Bishop got hurt and Vasilevsky jumped in and played a game. And Ben Bishop, he thought he was like almost like dead because they carried him off on a stretcher. And
Yeah.
Vasilevsky jumped in and didn't skip a beat and was unreal. And like, that was not a good thing for Ben Bishop because I think as an organization, they go, well, he's our guy. So he's going to start playing for us. So, one man's injuries, unfortunate, Bish went to Dallas and played, had some good years before he had some injuries. But anyways, I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but just the,
No,
I
it's
tried
good.
to
It's
do,
good.
I tried to do whatever it took to win. I really thought I did and played through injury and played through things I maybe shouldn't have. But that's part of it. It's part of being on a team. And, that's what, every year when you see teams that win and elite athletes, and what's an elite athlete? Is it a goal scorer? Is it a playmaker? There's elite goalies, there's elite defensemen, there's guys that are elite for me strictly because they'll do whatever it takes to win.
Mm.
And, like a goal scorer that maybe get in a fight or block a shot or, it's not about fighting. It really isn't anymore in the
Right.
game. It's because you don't have those guys that are, 6'5" and 250 or whatever, but it's the willingness to fight. It's, showing you're willing to just even drop your gloves and like throw a guy down. You don't even really need to like you look at a lot of the scrums now, like it's not even really fighting. It's just like, it's a scrum and guys pushing and shoving and maybe you throw a couple punches, but it's just that willingness. I think it's just showing that, you're willing to do that. And I think that's uplifting for teams, for guys that when you see a guy that doesn't really fight, like in 2004, when, I was friends with Joe McGinley because we played together in Calgary and I have all the utmost respect for Iggy. He's like one of the best guys and athletes and competitors. And, he fought Vinny Lecavalier. And I remember we were golfing in the summer and, he came to my Stanley Cup parties. He didn't stay very long, but he came because, he wasn't happy about it, but we were friends and we trained together. And, but he was a classy guy and a professional guy and he showed up. But I remember we were golfing. I was talking to him. I'm like, what are you doing fighting Vinny? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, why are you fighting him? He's like, well, that's what we did. It's what I do, get my team going. I was like, yeah, but Vinny, but Iggy, like if you break your hand, your team's done. Like
Yeah.
you basically, if you're not playing, and he's like, well, yeah, but you don't really think about it like that. But that I said to him was like, like it was uplifting for your team, but I said for our team, like Calgary was a much bigger team and more physical, and they were trying to push us out of the building. And as a team, we just had to say we were willing to stick in there and just not give up and just continue to battle. And I was like, you have no idea what that did for our team. Like the fact that
Mm.
Vinny Lecavalier, who's, he's like 6'3", 6'4", 200 pounds or whatever. But Joe McGinley was one of the, probably still could, if he was playing, he'd still be one of the toughest guys in the league. And I'm like, you have no idea what that did for our team. Because our whole team went, wow, Vinny hung in there and did pretty good. Like he didn't win the fight, but he didn't lose the fight. And that was
Yeah.
unbelievable for us because our whole team went, holy crap, wow. So, just little things like that. I think, you're talking about lead and willingness and winning and, the physical side of it. So again, going back to hitting and all that stuff, that's kind of, what I tried to do as I went along. And, I wasn't as skilled as some guys in the NHL, and you adapt your role depending on the
Right.
team you go to. Right. when I went to Colorado, they had a skilled team, and I had a conversation with Michel Goulet, and it was like, we have a spot for you, but we need physical guys. We have enough skill guys because you had Drury and Hayduk and Sakic and Forsberg, and I mean, going down the line, it was like basically an all-star team. So it was a pretty easy decision what I was going to do.
Right. So I don't think like the average person probably doesn't realize, things like that, like a fight or coming back out of the locker room and you got plugs in and coming back from that. It might not be a goal difference, but the energy difference that it makes and how that can turn a game. Hey.
Well, like if you just every year they release the injuries, and it's quite interesting. And so Tampa does it, and then so when they lost last year, people are like, oh, they're making excuses. Well, no, they're not. They're just revealing what guys, what injuries guys had. And then you see it. I remember I was back in Tampa for, I went for game 6, which was great, and it was unfortunate they lost, and then I went back for the 30th anniversary. They started the Wall of Fame where they inducted, Vinny Lecavalier and Brad Richards, and Steven Marty St. Louis and Phil Esposito. And anyways, we were down in the locker room, we're talking to the current players, and Stammer's a guy I know a little bit, but then Nick Paul's a guy my kids love him, because he's not the prettiest skater, but he's a hardworking guy and he scores goals. And I think he was against the Leafs. He had 2 goals. It was in Game 7, and his guy had stepped up, and I was talking to him. I was like, "Yeah, my kids are really big fans of yours. Could get an autograph." So he signed a stick for me, and I said to him, you weren't healthy last year, were you? He's like, "No, I think he had like a torn labrum or dislocated shoulder and something else." I was like, "Well, I could tell, but I was like, that's awesome." I said, I don't it's hard for me to say to a guy, "Hey, I'm a big fan of yours," because I'm like a 46-year-old man. But I was like, my kids really like you. They, they love you as a player. And I just said to him, I appreciate the way you play. I really, I appreciate the way you play. So, stuff like that. And there's other guys, like when they block a shot or you tell a guy's hurt, or, you know what I mean? Like blocking a shot is the willingness to do that is like a huge thing.
So how many guys are getting to make it to the playoffs, go deep into the playoffs? How many guys are 100% like
nobody
injury free? No one, right?
Nobody. Only the guys that aren't playing. Literally, like we were in Tampa, so in Tampa that run, it was like there's a guy by the name of Stan Netchkash, but it was spelled Necker, and Dan Boyle I think was hurt. So Stan went in and played 2 games in the Philly series. And he shouldn't have been playing because he had a bad groin. So the first game, you heard his groin pretty bad. So he's wearing these, they call them compression shorts, but they're called Cortex, and they were like heavy duty shorts that really kept your legs tight. And then they tension wrap your leg around your waist and your leg, and then tape it. And he came in and he played 2 games, and he wasn't a power play guy anymore. He was a skill guy, he's a check guy, but he was more of a penalty killer. And he came in and played 2 games, and it was unbelievable. And I remember saying to him, "Man, that game he played was unbelievable." And he said, "No, it's 2 games." I was like, "Holy crap, man!" Because after the second game, his leg was purple, he was already bruising because obviously he'd done something pretty bad. So, but even something like that. So a guy people don't realize when you go on playoff runs, guys, your star players are playing, hopefully every game, but there's guys that come in for a game or 2 and just do whatever they can, and it's huge. And I made sure I said that because I appreciated that. I was a guy that played, in that run, I played every game. So, for him to go in and do that, I know he's doing bodily harm to himself. That because an injury like that, you're going to be out a month at least, right? And then you're not playing golf or doing whatever in the summer. You're rehabbing. So that's that willingness. Yeah, that's that willingness to do whatever it takes to win. So you need that from teams, and learning, winning is a learning, it's a learned thing. People say oh, it's a cheesy saying, but when I coach, I tell my teams it's losing's easy, winning is hard. Losing is easy because how many teams do it every year? One team wins, and it's you need a little bit of luck. You need hopefully stay healthy, but it's hard. And if you look at guys at the end of the year, I just did an Alzheimer's challenge face-off in Edmonton here, and Brian Trache, who he just wrote another book, and so he was one of the keynote speakers. They had a hot stove, and he was talking about, and I'd heard this story because my dad had done some work for the Edmonton Oilers back in the day, and I got to meet a few of the guys, and so Charlie Huddy was doing the he's doing it too. And I went up and said, "Hey, Mr. Huddy, nice to meet you." He's like, "Hey, Chris, how's it going?" I'm like, "Wow, you know my name." Like, it's, kind of a little fanboy, but like I grew up watching those guys and it's
Yeah.
amazing. And just talking to them, and, and Trotz was talking about, he was an Islander at the time, that, the Oilers walked by when they lost, when they lost in the finals, and it was the fourth one in a row that the Islanders had won. And they talked about it, like Gretzky and those guys. And, they talked about, they thought they'd be celebrating. And he's like, literally everyone was like sitting there with ice bags on, and then Trotz made a joke of it. He's like, yeah, our trainer would tell us they were coming by. So we'd like, put the beer away and sit down and made it look like we were injured. He was just having fun with it, but it's true. Like they were beat up because they'd gone to 4 Stanley Cup finals in a row and they'd won 4 times. And that's a lot of hockey. Like if you do the math, it's almost like another season of hockey. So,
Right.
But just seeing that, like, so, for the Oilers, like them talk about that is, they thought it was easy, whatever. And you see these guys that are just beat up, like literally, but you're still celebrating a little bit. You're having fun because you won. And again, it's tough, and you have to learn. You got to learn how to lose, not learn how to lose, but you have to lose a little bit, and you have to hate it. And I think that's what's you're seeing with teams. And like, so Nathan McKinnon, like last year, obviously he's an elite player and a great player. And, he'd lost for years, and Gabriel Landeskog, but like, I remember that I saw a quote the other day online. It was McKinnon was like, "Oh, I wasn't losing again. I was going to win a cup," basically, like something along those lines. Like, he'd been in the league 10 years or 9 or 10 years, and they'd had good teams, and, and they hadn't gone over the hump. And it's like, okay. And Ovechkin did it years ago. And it was like when Washington had those good teams, and, it was like, Ovi scored 50 year after year. And, and then he get in the playoffs, and I was watching even during the season, like he wasn't playing the same way. He was playing more defensively, and he was blocking shots. And I remember like he blocked a shot, like he laid down to block a shot, and this whole team went like, holy, you know what I mean? Like, holy crap.
Yeah.
And then like, so it was like a third or fourth line guy. And if you see Alex Ovechkin blocking shots, I'll tell you what, you better be blocking. Like I'm diving face first in front of a puck, because if Ovi's doing it, I'm doing it. So, I think you see that, and like he wanted to win. Like he'd realized, like, not to be immortal, but like to be in that next level, I think. And it, fair or unfair, is that you're an elite player, and then when you win, you're like super elite. You know what I mean? Like you look at guys like Gretzky and Mario Lemieux and Bobby Orr, and like go over all the years, and Steven Stamkos. Obviously I have ties to Tampa and Colorado and Calgary and Carolina, but I just use that as an example where Steven Stamkos changed his game. He was playing more physical. He's blocking shots. Kucherov was more of the guy. He was like, actually, Stammer's making a joke of it when I was in Tampa. He's like, "Well, I'm the setup guy now." Basically like I'm the guy of the forechecks and whatever. And he's hitting guys and playing physical, because you see that. And Stammer's not a big guy, man. He's like maybe 6 feet. And he's like 180 pounds, maybe 185. And like when he's like hitting guys and fighting, like that's, I don't know, gives me goosebumps, man. I'm like a bigger guy. I'm like, oh man, Stammer's doing it, I'm doing it, right? Like Vinny the Cavalier. So just stuff like that, I think is imperative in winning.
So McDavid and the Oilers haven't learned to hate losing enough yet.
I think I don't know, that's different. I think they have, because you look at, I'm not like, I live in Edmonton, but I'm an Oilers fan, but I'm not, I never played for them. I played for Calgary, and took a lot of heat for that when Calgary drafted me. It was quite a laugh back in the day. Well, you're an Oilers fan, yeah. Well, I'm a Flames fan now, but I look at if you look at last year and just them getting past LA, and McDavid stepping up is a physical game, and because he was getting, you're a skilled guy, you're gonna get hit, you're gonna get slashed, you're gonna get whacked, and he stepped it up. He stepped up his physical game, and I think he was hurting pretty good. You could tell like he wasn't skating the same. So I look at press conferences, and the press conferences aren't everything, but you look at the end of the year, and like you have your media day, right? You lose, and a couple of days later you go in and clean out your locker or whatever, and then everybody wants to talk to you in the media. And I'm not picking on Toronto at all, but like you look at Riley's like, I don't want anything to change. I like these guys. And then Marner's like, whatever, it's disappointing, and whatever. And like Draisaitl's like pissed. Like, he's mad. It's not good enough. We should have won. And so that's what I want to see, like as an owner or a coach or a general manager. Like I want to see that. I want to see that, you're not really getting. So I was getting into a couple of Leafs fans on Twitter, and it wasn't like, you're ripping the guy because one guy was like, well, what do you want him to call his teammates? Well, no, I'm not asking that, but it's not good enough. Like
Right.
either you're happy getting to the second round, because I mean that's the thing with the Leafs. Like you've been a good team, you've been an elite team, you've been a first place team, but you're in this division or conference where you're playing Tampa in the first round. Like you're not playing an easy team, so you get past them, and then you get to the Panthers, and well, they're a good team.
Yeah.
They just had some injuries and peaked at the right time, but you got to hate losing, and you're not calling teammates out, but like either you're okay with that or you're not. And I don't know if I see that yet. And Edmonton, I think I think goaltending hurt them a little bit, and I think lack of depth. But I think you look at Draisaitl, McDavid, like those guys want to win. Like
Yeah.
just the emotion, and it's not fake emotion, and it's not about yelling and screaming or whatever. But you can usually tell with guys when they're like disappointed. Girls too, like athletes in general. Like you have to hate to lose. And like Patrick
Right.
Waugh, he was a guy I played with, and a lot of people thought he was an asshole, and he wasn't. He was an unbelievable guy. He treated me, a fourth line guy, unbelievably good. He treated me like an equal. Like I don't know, it sounds say that, but he could have treated me like whatever, like garbage. Or like I hit him with a shot high one time, and I was like, oh my god, like the puck flipped up on me. Actually, it hit him in the chin guard, and it made the worst sound. And like I knew when I wasn't a very good skater. I could skate fast in a straight line, but I couldn't turn. But I knew where to shoot a puck. And like every shot was like below his pad, like below his knee in the pads. Because I'm not hitting Patrick Waugh high, because if I hurt him, I'm done. I'm on a flight to Hershey. So I hit him in the chin guard and it made the worst sound. And like the coaches, the French Canadian coaches are like just ripping me in French, like, oh, it's a tabernacle. They're just giving it to you. I'm like, oh my God, Patty, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And he's like, don't worry about it. He looked over at the coaches, and with his hand, he went like this, like to the coaches, like basically shut up. And
Yeah.
they stopped. And I'm like, oh my God, Patty, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. He goes, don't worry about it. You shoot on me all the time. Puck flipped up on you. I was like, oh my God, thank God. But like, that was the thing too, where he could have been like a dick about it. And he wasn't, because he knew, he knew I was a good guy, and there's no way I was like, whatever, but he hated to lose, and maybe came
Right.
off the wrong way. But, we had a meeting one time, and we were playing the Flames, and we're down 2-0 after the second period. But before the game, Bob Hartley was like, I don't care who it is. Sakic, Forsberg. I've told the story a few times. Doesn't matter who it is. You turn the puck over, you're going to sit. Well, Forsberg had like 2 extra large of anchovies, like phantom drop passes at the blue line for turnovers, and nobody had sat. And in between periods, like, goalies don't usually talk very much when they're playing. Like they're, leave them alone, right? They're in the corner and
Right.
just, they're over here, like, warm them up, whatever, shooting their pads. And then the backup goalie comes in, and then you're going top shelf, right? But Patty stands up in between periods, and he goes, you guys, this is a, effing joke. This is a effing joke. He's like, we're not going to win playing this way. He's like, this is a friggin' joke. And then he's like, you guys got 1 period to show me if you want to play. Otherwise, I'm freaking out here. I'm asking for a trade. And he goes, that guy down there, he's got no balls. He's not going to sit you, Joe. He's not going to sit you, Pete. He's got no effing balls. And we're like, oh my God, he's like, you guys got 1 period to show me if you want to win, or otherwise I'm freaking out of here. And everyone went, holy crap, man. So it was like, and this is, like
Wow.
your goalie. They didn't say anything, but he was challenging the guys. And so what the thing was is like, Hartley wasn't going to sit those guys. It wasn't about sitting them, but like, so he did that. And like, so the best part was that, our coaches were Jacques Cloutier, Bob Hartley, and Brian Trottier. And Brian Trottier was assistant coach. Brian Trottier, 6 Stanley Cups. So the best part was that Bob heard every word, because he, at the 2-minute mark, he came through the locker room. He's like, Pete, show me on. You guys are starting. He's like, and then like Trottier was walking like a couple of feet behind, and he's like giggling and kind of laughing because he heard every word. But tell you what, third period, man, that was a good third period. We won 3-2, and I think the shots were like 25-2 or something. It was like whatever it was, but it was like, okay, we're playing because Patty said something, because we had Ray Bork, and it was like win one for Ray and whatever, and he wanted to win too. But he's like, he went and told the coaches to play him less, because he wanted to win that bad. He was 41 years old, and he knew he
Right.
couldn't play like 30 plus minutes a night. So just things like that, like the competitive. And there's a few guys, just, Patrick was a guy that just hated losing, wanted to win, and was competitive. And I just loved it.
And whatever it took to win. So you won 2 Stanley Cups, 2 different teams. What were kind of your most memorable moments around both of those cups, Chris?
Oh, well, I think it was like, so Ray Bork went in, so we're playing St. Louis. I think we're going into triple overtime or something. And he'd already played like, I don't know, 40 minutes probably. And our line had scored. We were the 4th line. And we'd played like 8 minutes, something like that, like right around 8 minutes. And like, if you do the math on, going into triple overtime, That's a lot of ice time. We only played 8 minutes. So how much did everyone else play?
Right.
And guys were guys were dying. Like, and, Joe Sakic's one of the best conditioned athletes ever, but you can only play so many minutes. Like, you have to
Yeah.
spread the ice. Not that I should play equal amount to, but you have 4 lines for a reason. And so I remember, like, so Ray Bork got up in the intermission. He got up, he walked through the dressing room, and he went in the coach's room, and he slammed the door. He came out like a minute and a half, 2 minutes later. He said, everyone's going to play. Be friggin' ready. And all of a sudden, and Bob Hartley, he was rolling the lines. He was playing everybody. So something like that is a huge thing because, Ray Bork is Ray Bork. Like, he's a legend, and he's an all-star. But he wanted to win. And he knew, not that he knew, but like our defense, like we had Adam Foote and Rob Blake and Greg DeVries and Martin School and John. Like, we had good defense. Like, we had 3 Olympians, basically, Blake, Foote, and Ray Bork. So,
Yeah.
He doesn't have to play half the game, and he knew he couldn't anymore. So I just had all the respect in the world for him that he wanted to win that bad. And he was basically saying, play me less. So, that was one thing. I think the Vinny fight was huge. I think, just his willingness to fight, and then a kind of a funny story that's it's been told a little bit is that, so we were playing Philly in the Eastern Conference Finals, and we're up 3-2, and we're in Philly. And there was a turnover late in the game. They tied up. They score in overtime. So we're like devastated. We got to go back for game 7. And so we're getting on the plane. And as we're taking off, you hear this thud. And everyone, like, I'm at the back at the card table, like cards, whatever. So we're like, oh my God, what happened? And people are like, oh my God, Mary Faye passed out, one of the stewardesses. So her name was Mary Faye. So she, like, it was really hot, like, because it was like the end of May or something, right? Or middle of May in Pennsylvania. So it was like, I don't know. So she's like passed out. So, like, the plane's taking off like this, and literally the doctor's like running downhill down the aisle, like to the back. So it's not like, when you're on a charter, the rules are a little different. When taking off, you don't necessarily need your tray tables stored and whatever.
Right.
Have your seat backs,
A little
whatever.
more casual. Yeah.
So anyway, so like he's sprinting down and whatever, and the doctor, and it's like, and so we're like, oh my God, what happened? So Mary Faye. So we only have 2 stewardesses in the back and one in the front. So we're like, okay, how do we help out? So we're like grabbing, so us guys at the back, we're grabbing trays, and it was like beef tips or chicken marsala were the 2 options or something, which is great. Don't get me wrong. So, like, we're handing, like, what do you want, guy? So we're like helping the other stewardess, and so, like, Mary Faye's like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. We're like, don't worry about it, just relax, we got this. So we're like serving everybody, right? And then Andre Waugh, who's quite the he's a very funny guy. Let's just say that. He's one of the funniest guys I ever played. So Wazzy, so he's helping out. So Marty St. Louis, like, egging him on. So he's like, hey, Wazzy, throw the apron on. Stewards is they like to cook or whatever, they throw the aprons on. He's like, well, do it in your underwear. He's like, oh, okay. So he's like, well, you won't do it naked. You got no balls, so you won't do it naked. He's like, yeah, sure. So finally, so Wazzy's like in the apron, like full apron, whatever. You can't see, like, but like you can see the back, so his butt cheeks are like hanging out everywhere. So he's walking around. You want beef tips? You want chicken marsala? What do you want? And, like, so it was actually quite funny because it was it was like a comedic relief because it was something kind of serious that happened, but like, we were devastated. But then, like, he took it to the whole nother level. And they're like, oh, go serve Torts. He's like, no. And he's like, well, everyone's like, well, no, you got to. So he's like, all right, fine. So he went up to Torts, like, you want beef tips or chicken marsala? And then kind of turned around, and Torts was like, oh, Jesus Christ, Andre, whatever. And kind of had a laugh. So it was actually perfect because it was, pretty devastating and disappointing, how the game went. And it was actually the perfect comedic relief that just lightened everyone up. You know what I mean? It's just hockey. We had another game, so we ended up winning the next one, and on we went.
Right. Yeah. So you talked about, like, doing whatever it takes to win, and, the players that obviously laid it all out on the line, nothing would hold them back. How much do you think of that is kind of in the individual, and how much can you actually, I guess, train or develop that, do you think?
I think it's environment a little bit. Like, I think I don't know, when I was younger, like, I'm a competitive guy. My kids are competitive, in different ways, but like, I hated losing. Like, even now, like, I have a hard time playing sports, like, against, well, my kids are older now and they can, like, sometimes beat me depending on the sport. But like when I was younger, you can't just like dust them. Like, you got to let them win a little bit. So it's hard. Like, I think it's in you. Like, I think either you're competitive, and, some guys, and, everyone's different. Like, you can be competitive in different ways. It's not about hitting or fighting all the time. It can be about, winning a race to a puck or a puck battle or making a
Right.
play or, maybe being able to score when it's like a breakaway or something and all the pressure's on. So I think you're born. A lot of people, like, you're born with it, but I think you can cultivate that too. I think, I played junior. I played in Brandon, and my first year there, we had the biggest points turnaround because the team wasn't very good the year before. And then by my third and fourth year, we were competing. We went to 2 Memorial Cups. We won a Western League championship, and I was a captain last year, and I loved winning. Like, I loved winning, and I hated losing. But I think part of that too is like the culture. So, when I started in the league, I was in Calgary. It was, it's some veteran guys like Fleury and James Patrick, and, going down the line. But like, that was a team, like, you're trying to make the playoffs. Like, we're just trying to make the playoffs. And, when I hear teams say, our goal is to make the playoffs, I'm like, no, it's not your goal. Whether it's realistic or not, your goal is to win the Stanley Cup. So for me, I think it's the wrong messaging. What's your goal? Well, our goal is to win the Stanley Cup. Like, that's what it is every year as an NHL team. So, I think the culture part of it too, I think you can cultivate that. So I think, I think guys, especially young players coming in the league where you're a good junior player. Okay. But, or you're an elite junior player. And then you come to the league and you're good and you'll struggle a little bit. And, unless you have the right guys or you're in an environment where, like, no, like, it's not time to make a play, or you got to take a hit, or, it's not time to do a one-on-one something or whatever, you know what I mean? So it's like, I think it's a learned behavior too, as well. I think, and so it's not for everybody. Like, some guys aren't willing to, dump the puck in or take a hit or block a shot. Not everyone's willing to do that because it hurts. It's hard. So I think a lot of, to answer your question in a roundabout way, I think you have it, but I think you can cultivate it. I think in the right environments, you put people in the right environment that's competitive, and I think you can really, because sometimes I think, just coaching kids, like, they think they're working hard, and they are, but, like, you have more.
Right.
And then when you get it out of them, you're like, see, well, look at that. That was great, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And
Totally.
oh, okay. Yeah, but they've never maybe been pushed or whatever. And it's not for everybody because, when you're hard on kids, and, like, even like in the NHL, I got yelled and screamed at all the time. And, sometimes it's hard where it's like, I remember, like, saying to a coach, like Harley, I was like, why are you yelling at me? He's like, well, I can't yell at Forsberg or Sakic. I was like, okay, why didn't you just tell me that? Like, I show up top 10 in conditioning every year, and, it's like, I'm in good shape. I show up 2.5 hours before practice. I work out before practice. I go out early, shoot on the goalies, stay out after, get bag skated, ride the bike. Like, I'm working hard. Like, like, you don't need to yell at me. So I did this again, like, you're going from Calgary where you're trying to make the playoffs. And I went to Colorado, and it was like, our goal is to win the cup. And then, we traded for Ray Bork, and then we lost in 7 games in Dallas. So we come back the next year, training camp, and our goal is to finish first overall. So if we have a game 7, it's in our building. And it was unbelievable. It was awesome because it was all about playing. Don't get me wrong. We still had fun. Like, when we had days off, we go and have, beers and stuff. And, we still had fun, guys golfed and whatever, but it was all about winning. And it was all like, it was such a good environment where I just think, looking back on that, if I'm a team or, God forbid, if I ever run an NHL team, I'm never going to say our goals to make the playoffs. No, our goal is to win the cup. Is that realistic or not? Probably not for, maybe, I don't know, 10 teams, maybe, or I don't even know. Like, everybody, like, you look at 8th place teams over the years that just sneak into the playoffs and win cups or to get all the way to the finals. Like, once you're in the playoffs, like, you never know, but your goal is to win, right? Otherwise, why are we doing this? Like, there's 100%. No sense paying guys, tens of $1 million or whatever, however much money, and keeping score and having video review and all these reviews because, well, it matters. Like, because you look at these teams that have lost, and, like, not to pick on the Leafs again, but they're complaining about the officials and stuff. And it's like, no, everybody has calls that go against you. And I've met enough refs, and, it's like they don't want to decide a game for the most part. They don't. Like, they'd rather call no penalties and just have you guys decide it. But they're also told to call penalties, and they have to do video. And people don't understand that. Like, literally, officials. And don't get me wrong, like, there's times I've been really mad at refs because it's like, what the frig, man? Like, how'd you miss that or whatever? And the one thing I will say is, like, in the Leafs, when they're like, the fans are mad, then you got a guy like Bunting who's flopping on the ice, and like you're embellishing and stuff. And guys, he's not the only guy. Other guys have done it. But like when you make an official, like a ref, look bad, like they're not going to call a penalty that's not a penalty, but they're also not going to give you the benefit of the doubt. So there might be another time where it actually is a penalty, but they're not going to call it because they're like, you got me that time. You're not going to make me look bad again. I've talked to a few refs and had, like, one of the best stories I have is there's a guy by the name of Mike Hasenfratz. And he refed when I played junior, and then he refed in the NHL. We're in Carolina at a games one time, and he came and sat down. He's like, "Dinger, is that you?" And I'm like, "Hey." He's like, "Hey, it's Hazy, Mike Hasenfratz." I'm like, "Hey, buddy." So we're having a few after the game. We're just telling stories and talking. He's like, "There's two words he's like, basically as a ref, you can tell me go F myself. You can tell me whatever. I get it. You're mad. You're passionate. Whatever." He's like, "Doesn't bother me." He's like, "There's two words you can't call me, and they both start with a C." And one, you know what I mean? They're 4-letter words. You can figure out what they are, right? So he's like, "I don't know if you remember, there was a game in junior where he's like, this guy started. It was like Medicine Hat or Moose Jaw, one of the teams. So, and I was playing. So he's like, "I don't know if you remember the game, but this guy started like all this shit, right?" And there's like line brawl after line brawl, and everyone's fighting. And this guy still had the guy that started it all hadn't fought. And so every whistle, he's telling like Oz, he's like, so every whistle, this guy's trying to get kicked out. And he's telling me to go F myself, this F you and F you and F you and this and that, right? He's like, "I'm not kicking you out, like whatever." So he's like, then the kid's escalating. So he's like, every whistle, you're a like C word, you're a this, you're blank sucker, whatever. And he's like, "You can call me I won't say the words, but you can call me a blank or blank, but I'm not kicking you out because he's like, you're gonna have to fight." And he's like, the guy wanted the easy way out. He wanted me to give him like a 2 and a 10 in a game and kick him out. And he's like, "I wasn't doing that." So he's like, give the guy credit. He fought, took a beating, and but he's like, "I wasn't kicking him out. I'm not going to give him the easy way out because you don't want to get kicked out after you started." Like, so his point was like, you start all this because he cheap shotted a guy or something, like cross-checked a guy from or whatever it was. I don't even know, but whatever. And all your teammates are fighting. Everyone else is fighting, and you're trying to take the easy way out, as it's called. And he's like, "No, I wasn't doing that." So I just, I always appreciated that one, that story.
So when you get brought in as an enforcer or more of a fighter, what would you give some advice, I guess, for younger players that still want to develop their skill side and still want to be a strong offensive player? How do you balance that out, Chris?
Well, again, it's like, it's a winning thing. So like people say they're willing to do whatever it takes to make it or to play or whatever. And some people are, but a lot of people aren't. So, you look at fighting and like it's declined a lot, and rightfully so. Like you don't want to go back to the days of, whatever, but I'll tell you what, like I still watch YouTube videos of the Oilers and the Flames playing back in the 80s. Like it was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, was it too far, all the line brawls? Yeah. But I'll tell you what, that was like, it was a war. Like it was, two of the most skilled teams and toughest teams. I mean, you look at like both the, Gretzky and Curry and then Fleury and like Neuendijk and going, Suter, like whatever, McKinnon going down the line. But, like those guys, like a lot of fighters back in the day, that's how they got in the league. And then they developed their skill and learned how to like earn more ice time. So, unfortunately with the decrease of that role is that those guys are important because everybody knows most people have been in a fight in their life, whether it's off the ice or on the ice or one or two. And it's not a lot of fun to get punched in the face and to have to do it like over and over again. And, 20 times a year, like, I don't think you need that anymore where guys are fighting 20, 30 times a year. Because obviously, what we know about, brain trauma and stuff is not good. But, those guys are important to teams because like, I remember a guy saying one time, like, "Do you think I like fighting?" It was a fighter, said it to like a skill guy who was like, just being soft, wouldn't even take a hit. He's like, "You think I like fighting?" And the guy's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "You think I like fighting? I got to fight because you're playing like shit, basically. And like, you won't like whatever. And like, the guys don't want to play. So I got to go out there and fight to get you guys going because the coach sending me out here." So he's like, "The least you can do is like show up." And the guy was like, "Oh, I didn't really." Yeah. He's like, "Oh, I didn't really think about it that way." So, it's one of those things, and that's the skill. So I think, like nobody, like, I don't know, I had to fight to play, but like, I wanted to score goals too, but I knew what my role was and hitting and playing physical and all that. But like, I shot pucks before practice. I shot pucks after practice. That's why, anytime the goalies went out early, I went out and shot on the goalies because there's a chance to shoot more pucks. So, my vice or whatever, or what I'd say is it's, when you think you're a finished product, you're done. If that makes sense. 'Cause if you look at,
Totally.
again, like the elite players, like Sidney Crosby, his work ethic is, second to none. And, McDavid and those guys, because it's not easy to make it, but, those guys have all that talent. You make it to the NHL and it's hard to do, but then you're there. But then you score like 30 goals and 40 goals and 50 goals. And you look at like, Crosby, for example, what he's done over his career, and like Ovechkin scoring 30, 40, 50 goals year after year, and Draisaitl, McDavid, like to be able to do what they do, you have to work on your game all the time because teams are doing video. Like everyone's doing video, right? Like that's why the Oilers power play struggle a little bit, because like in that last series against Vegas, because it's like you skate it up, and then you drop it back, and then you drop it to McDavid, and he's going to skate it in, and well, they do video. That's all they do. It's like, okay, here's what they're going to do, and they prepare for you. So, those top guys, they work on their game, they work on their skating, they work on their shooting, and I have all the respect in the world for guys to be able to, again, making it is one thing, staying is another thing, but being elite year after year is just all the respect in the world. Because I wasn't able to do it. I was able to score 41 year in junior, and whatever. I think my best year was 8 goals, but my role changed. I'd rather win a cup and be in the, like, I looked at it when I got traded to Colorado. I'd rather fight and play in the NHL than maybe be a goal scorer in the American Hockey League. It was an easy decision because I get to play with the best players in the world, and they were the best guys and treated me like gold. So, I wouldn't trade those experiences for anything. But, if I could go back in time, I definitely would have done a lot more power skating and all that Power Edge Pro stuff that everyone's doing now. They didn't really have a lot of that when I was playing. So I definitely would have done more of that, because it's just amazing what guys, stuff they can do now, and the speed of the game. And but again, the goalies have gotten better, like in, every rule they make to increase offense. Coaches are good. So there's things they do, like defensive tactics, and, the way you play and defensively and collapsing, and, being in shooting lanes and stuff, because guys can shoot the puck. So for goalies, like the goalies are better. Like they're bigger, they're more agile, the pads are lighter. Like everyone's just getting better and better. So it's just it's a battle between, guys that are trying to score and guys that are trying to stop you from scoring. So, the guys that are good and play year after year and stay and then play at that level, they're working on their game. They're shooting pucks in the summer. They're working out, the strength training part, going to camp in shape, because, when they do testing, and I remember someone saying, like, why are they doing testing? And I'm like, well, because they want to see if you're in shape. But like, you're expected to be in shape. But there was a guy in Tampa, this Russian guy, that came to camp and not in shape, and he did not have a fun experience because Tortorella was lodged right up, where, and the poor kid was riding the bike, and the scout was like, well, he said he played soccer all summer. Well, and he was like, everyone's like, whoa, would he play goal? So, I think just, being in shape is huge. And then again, I'm kind of rambling on a little bit, but that's another thing where that could take your game to the next level. Like, I mean, it's totally changed now. Like everyone's got trainers at younger ages. My kids are 14 and 16. They've had a trainer. They work out with in the summer, because God forbid they work out with dad. But, it's a different voice. But, back in the day, guys weren't training the same way. Like skill guys didn't really have to train because you had all the skill, right? And other guys didn't. And, I'll never forget, like Brad McCrimmon telling me when he played Bobby Orr, and he's like, Bobby Orr, like God went like this and touched Bobby Orr and said, have a good life. Don't screw it up. You're going to be blessed. And so he's like, Bobby Orr worked out and was the best skater in the game, and everyone else like smoked and drank. So he's like, how'd that go? Like, so then like all of a sudden guys started working out, like in the 90s, like everyone started like training, like, cause he used to be, showed up at camp and he'd use training camp to get in shape. And then after that, everyone was like showing up to camp in shape, because, it's a difference between playing and not playing. That's kind of what they use it for. Is that if we're deciding between me and you, and I'm 5th overall in testing, and you're 20th, who like as an organization or coach, who are you taking?
Right.
Well, you're going to take the guy who's 5th overall.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, if it's between, a couple guys or 3 guys, I'm going to take the guy who's in the best shape because he showed he's willing to do the work.
Right. Who do you think, Chris, you had the biggest rivalries with in your career?
Myself or teams?
You personally.
Me. It's a tough one. Well, just fighting wise, I think I had to fight Probert like 4 or 5 times when I was in Colorado. it's kind of what helped me get back in the league. I got called up and I fought him and I did pretty good. And then he kind of jumped me again. So the second fight wasn't really, and then I got sent down and then I got called up again. Then I fought him like 4 times the next year. So, that was pretty good fighting a guy who's arguably the heavyweight champ in the league for like a decade or so. So that was pretty cool. I think George the Rock, we could.
Anyone really get under your skin that you played against that you were like, man, every time I go up against this guy, I just want to deck him?
Adam Foote, but he was on my team. So Foote was, God, he's a good guy, but he chirped everybody. And he kind of took me under his wing and he'd invite me over, and the next day he'd be chirping me in the locker room, like, how many beers of chicken wings you had last night, you fat, you know what? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Is that your house, man? And then we play like 5-on-5 or 2-on-2 or 3-on-3 in the zone or whatever. And he just like cross-checking me and like face rubbing me, flipping my helmet, just abused me. I turn around and if I knocked him down, and then like Harley starts screaming at me, like, Dish, what are you doing? I'm like, how many cross checks did the guy give me? Like, just abuse me, and then I knock him down. I get yelled at. So like Adam, yeah, he was a guy that was just miserable to play against. Had a pretty good rivalry against Jason Strudwick, just a junior. Because we played him in the league finals, and we fought quite a bit. And then when he got traded to Vancouver, and I was in Colorado, there was like him and Brashear, and there was myself and Scott Parker, my second year in Colorado. And I was fighting one of the two of them, and he usually ended up Parks. He was fighting Brashear, so then Strudwick and I were fighting. So, we're friends now. We kind of laugh about it because he joked around like, okay, guess we're fighting this game. So, he kind of knew. So he's a guy I had all the respect in the world for, because in junior, I used to kind of like beat the crap out of him. And every year he got tougher and tougher, but he was a guy that worked on his game and had a good career because he was a good defensive guy and would fight and hit and do those little things. And he ended up playing. He had a pretty good career just because, he's a hardworking, good team guy. So there's places in the game for guys like that. And I guess me too.
Who's the GOAT of fighting?
Semenko? I don't know, because I never fought him. So I can't really, obviously he was tough, but I think, he was like 6'3", maybe 6'2". He was like 220 pounds, 215 maybe. So you look at like Probert was like 215 towards the end of his career. Probert was up to like 240. So I think Probert's obviously, pound for pound, Ty Domi was tough, but just Probert and Grimson, I think, were two guys. And then I kind of have a top three, and then George the Rock, like, fought George a few times, and that wasn't fun. Thank God he's a pretty nice guy, because, he always talked to, like, I see him now. He's like, you didn't like fighting, did you? I never liked fighting. He's like, but he said, I figured I'd be so good at it, so I wouldn't have to fight as much. And fighting George was like, oh my God. It was like punch, like sticking your finger in a bull's eye and then like trying to hang on for dear life while the bull's trying to punch your face in. Because that's how strong he was. Like he was just like a big man, and he'd get you and start swinging you around, and you're just trying to like punch him and not get your face punched in. So, I fought him probably 4 or 5 times, and I never got the crap kicked out of me. So I'll take that as a win. So those are probably I don't have a goal, but those are the top 3 for sure.
So you moved on to broadcasting. You're in sales now. How much, are you still competitive in your career now? I've heard a lot of people say that sales is like compares a lot to sport.
Well, yeah, because I think there's a rush of, if you get a big sale, it's pretty cool and stuff, and just being competitive. So I think it's just, to be honest, it's playing sports. So there's that part of it. It's being competitive. But it's also like you got to go to a new team sometimes, like every year or every other year, and you got to meet new guys. You go to a new city, and, whatever. You go to like your kids, you go to new school or whatever it may be. So, that part of it's kind of like you got to learn to meet new people. And I used to be, years ago, I was really shy and I didn't talk that much. I never really looked people in the eye when I was younger because I was just so much bigger than everyone else at a young age. And like literally, like people are like maybe up to like not even my shoulders, like were they like a year older than me? It was just weird. And like I look at old basketball pictures, and I'm like 2 heads taller than everyone else. But just playing sports, I think really, just like it made you, maybe I don't know if it made me come out of my shell, but I just met so many people and talked to so many people, and then you go to these events and charity events, and you get to meet all these guys. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to talk to people. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to have a few beers with this guy. And, and tell stories and stuff. So I just, like, I guess, came out of my shell, and, just like talking, and figured why not do it. So, make a living out of it a little bit. And, because everyone's insecure, everyone's shy. Like,
Right.
a lot of people can't listen to themselves, and can't this and can't that. And I don't know. When I listen to myself, I think I sound like a total idiot, but maybe I do. I don't know. But
We
who
all
knows?
do.
You just
I don't listen to any of my podcasts. I just
yeah, it's
film them,
hard.
post them. Yeah. Everyone's like
Definitely.
that. Awesome, man. Well, we'll wrap up here. Just kind of like, I mean, the chance of playing in the NHL is 0.11%, and you did it for over a decade. You had a tremendous career, 2 championships. How do you look back on your career, Chris? Is it with a lot of gratitude, a lot of like, man, I can't believe I did that?
A little bit of both. Like, I'm proud. I mean, obviously, I would like my career to go a little better, and just being traded. Like, it started in Calgary, and then they fired the guy Doug Risebrough, and the head scout who drafted me. So then you're kind of on, not on your own, but then you're just trying to make it. And so I look at it like, could my career been a lot better? Yeah, I think so. Like, different circumstances, I could have maybe scored more and had different opportunities. But on the flip side, I was lucky to win and be on 2 great teams. So I'm very proud of that. And, just having played, and I think, I mean, I can't speak for other people, but I think, I've met a lot of people. I have a lot of friends that I've played with, and,
Mm,
I do these charity things now, and like Brad May and all these different guys that you played against, and, like you're your friends now. So, I look at it, I think I'm proud that, I played, I made it, I fought, I was able to win. And I think, I'm regarded as a hardworking guy that would do anything to win. So I think that's something, like, I guess, like, I hang my hat on that, I was able to win. I was a good team guy, and, I worked hard. I think that's just what I try to stress to, people I coach and my kids, is just work hard, show up and work hard every day. Maybe you're not the best player now, but you never know. And, life just goes like this sometimes in sports and your career. You just show up and work hard every day, because those guys, girls, whatever, they're the ones that usually, not all the time, but most of the time, they get ahead.
your kids want to go all the way?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Everybody has a dream to play. Like, we all, they don't even remember being down at the rink a lot of times and being able to meet Kucherov and Stamkos and Ryan Malone. A lot of those guys, I kind of ask them, do you remember that? They're like, well, kind of a little bit, but yeah, obviously, they want to play, they like the game, and, have a passion for it. And, you never know. I just tell them, you got to work on your game every day. And in the
Right.
off season, you got to work out, you got to get bigger and stronger and faster. So, who knows where it'll take them, but, I'll support it. It's expensive as heck, but, that's all I tell them.
Yes.
Like, we'll sacrifice, we'll go without, just all, the only thing it's like, I just tell them, the only thing that's expected out of you is to, like, get good grades and work hard.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
Go as far as you can, because it's fun, man. It's like, it's just when you play sports, like, everyone asks, what do you miss? Well, I miss the paychecks for sure. Like, let's be honest. Like, every 2 weeks,
Yeah.
it's a nice paycheck, but that's just a perk, I guess. But you miss the guys. You miss, depending on if you're female sports or guy sports, you miss the players. You miss being in the locker room, the camaraderie,
Yeah.
it's like, it's September, and, you're going to training camp. And then, when you're like towards the end there, when I didn't have a contract, it's like, frig, what am I doing? Like, I'm in Edmonton, I'm skating, then I got to go back to Tampa because I don't have a deal. Like, then you go to Europe. So, just that, I think, just, just the friendships you make, and,
Totally.
and just, even them, like, they've made friends over the years. And, we moved back, 5 years ago now, and, they still friends with guys in Tampa. It's more on the internet stuff, right? Like, Instagram or whatever,
Yeah.
they WhatsApp, or I don't know, Snapchat, however they chat online. But, they still keep in touch. Well, they still keep in touch with their old teammates, and it's great. So
Yeah.
we went
That's
back,
cool.
we took them back for game 6, and, we were able to see some of their old teammates and stuff. And it was great to see how everyone's doing and stuff. And, you run into them at tournaments. So that's the beauty of sports, is it, you just make friends, and hopefully lifelong friendships. And, you'd not see someone for 5 or 10 years, and then you see them, it's like no time's passed. So it's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Lifelong friendships and lifelong lessons, I think, in
Yep.
sport.
100%.
Right on, Chris. Well, I commend you, man, on your career. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to sit with us and give us some insight. You had some great stories in there. We'll log off live streaming here and then wrap up our call. But yeah,
Sure.
great having you on the show today.